Hello and welcome to the channel. Thanks for stopping by. Great to have you here. Today we're going to take a look at this, the TIMEX Expedition Camper 39mm. One of the smallest watches that I have purchased. Having a big 8-inch wrist. 39mm I didn't think would fit me very well, but it actually is alright, but I'll show you that at the end. Now I got this from Amazon. I'll put a link in the description, hopefully to the UK and the US websites with these. Cost around £35, less than $40. Now this is classed as the green version, but the listing that I saw also shows a black version. Let me just pop that up, and a brown as it's listed as. So I've put them on the screen, but I know there's several other versions of this watch around, so just keep your eye open for it. You might find it in a different one, and they seem to come with different straps as well, so you might find there's one that you prefer with the strap. We'll discuss the strap on this one later. So let's take a look and see what we get for our money. So this is a very simple sort of utility watch really. An inexpensive one, as I said, about £35–40. And there's lots of things I like about this watch. Now, it's not a big watch, as I say, it's a 39mm. So we've got 39mm in diameter. We've got a lug-to-lug of 43.3mm. Again, so it sits quite tight to the wrist. Strap, 20mm, which goes really nicely actually with the 39mm diameter. This is one of the smallest watches that I've bought. I've got a big 8-inch wrist, so those dimensions do work well with the watch, but it is a little bit lost at my wrist, but I'll show you that later. Now, thickness wise, only 9.5mm thick, he says. Getting it into focus. And then weight, it's only 33 grams in weight, which is super light. So if you're after a watch that is really lightweight on your wrist, this would be perfect for you. Now, as I mentioned, super lightweight watch, 33 grams. Now that's basically down to the way that this watch is built. Depending on which listing you look at, you're either going to see it listed as acrylic or plastic. I'll call it plastic. So it's a plastic body. We've got mineral crystal above the dial, and then a stainless steel case back, and that is as simple as it is, and that's what makes it so lightweight. Also, just to mention, the crown is rather tiny for my rather big fingers, so that can be a bit of a fiddle to adjust this, but simply built, great sort of beta watch this would be. It's not a throwaway watch by any means, and I'm not advocating making more waste that we need to make for the environment, but it's pretty much that sort of finish and build. It really is more or less disposable. You might want to replace the battery on this if you wanted to, you certainly can, and this watch would do you great. I do wonder how the plastic would handle some real knocks and bangs. I've not given it an awful lot of knocks and bangs by the look of it, so I do wonder how that would wear. So the dial on this watch, very simple and straightforward. Field watch style, 1 to 12 on the outer track in large Arabics, and then just on the inner track printed in, well, yellowy orange colour, 13 to 24. Timex printed above the pinion. We've got a nice date window just by the 3, edged in that same yellow, which stands out really nicely actually. We've also got the second hand, which is also yellow with a little LUME pip on. And then hands wise, they're very straightforward. It's a bit of a no-nonsense hands like the watch to a degree. Let me just push that in so we'll start ticking again. Simple, straight-ended batons filled with LUME. Now obviously the LUME on this is not great. It doesn't pass my 3am test by any means, but that's because you don't need to worry about it so much, because just down in the bottom here you'll see it says Indiglo, which is the backlight feature that Timex has. It's a really, really good feature to have. We've got WR50 for 50 meters of water resistance just printed down the bottom as well. So LUME wise, you don't need to worry too much about the hands because you've got Indiglo, which is great. Now, bezel, as I say, it's all made out of this acrylic stroke plastic. As you can see, it's just a nice, simple, round bezel. Very simple, just like this watch. Plastic down to the lugs, onto the strap. Now this particular one, there's several versions of this watch with several different face styles as well and dial styles. So strap wise, this goes onto a canvas strap using these black plastic, well, I don't know, lug adapters, I don't know quite how we would describe them, but again, straightforward, simple. Like the watch, it's just a simple utility watch. For the price, it's really good, but it does have a little bit of a flaw. Now, one of the things I put as the thumbnail was this camper has a flat tire, and what I mean by that is when you press in this button here to activate the Indiglo, and I will do some video where you can see this far better, it's basically the bottom of it doesn't light up. It's a flat tire as it's known. I get that from a Moto 360 smartwatch that used to have a very similar display, and they used to call it a flat tire. Whereas other watches, and I'll show you in just a second, have full face backlit Indiglo. This one doesn't, and that's because of the display adapters and everything just at the bottom of the thing. And I find that really a little bit disappointing. I was expecting it to be a full face illuminated Indiglo watch like the other Timexes I've got, and it's not. And that's a letdown, if I'm honest. It's a real shame that it's got that, because other than that, this is a nice, simple, straightforward watch. So just to go on about the LUME, so this is the TIMEX Expedition 42mm. I reviewed this some time ago. I'll put a link to that just up in the corner. And this, if I press the button, has a full face Indiglo illumination. Doesn't have the flat tire. Now I appreciate that this is a 42mm watch and the camper is the 39mm, but I do find that a little disappointing that it's got that. It certainly detracts from the look of the watch. Caseback wise, we've got a stainless steel screw-on caseback, 4 little screws in the corner there, which gives us 50 meters of water resistance, which is great. So a great utility watch, I suppose, if you're out camping. I'll see where they're going with this. Stainless steel caseback. It tells you the battery, which is the CR, I can't quite read that because that's so small, 2018. So that will tell you the battery that you need to replace it should you want to. Even tells you 20mm lug. And it's got the timex.co.uk. T42771, 42571 even. And this Expedition logo on the back. Quite straightforward. Easy to replace the battery in it though. So strap wise, this particular version comes with this nylon strap. It's got this black end with these adapters on to take it to the lugs, and this, I don't know, khaki coloured nylon strap with stitching, retainer, and buckle. Time it's just on the buckle. Quite straightforward. Reminds me of the strap on the cheapest watch on Amazon, which are not on Amazon, the cheapest watch on AliExpress, which I bought. I'll put a link up to that in the corner. Very similar, and I think this is one of the parts that I don't like about this watch. It's a bit rough for me. You could easily swap this out, maybe onto a NATO would be ideal if you're going to be using this out and about, or if you're camping, etc. It's a little rough. I haven't worn this watch an awful lot, so it hasn't really broken in just yet. It was a little stiff, but it's already started to soften up just on the several times that I've worn this watch. But probably the one part that I would change. So here it is on wrist. Now I've got an 8-inch wrist, and this is the smallest watch that I own, I think, at 39mm. But it sits alright actually on my 8-inch wrist. I was quite surprised by that. As a utility watch, weekend watch, going camping, obviously, which is what this watch is aimed at. It's great. It could take a good bashing. A couple of little niggles. The strap, although it's actually long enough for me with my 8-inch wrist, it's a little rough on the nylon, but I've got plenty of straps that I would swap it out onto. Maybe a black NATO or something like that. The other thing is that display with that Indiglo feature, just missing the bottom of the display off. It's a little disappointing when they've got other watches that have got full face Indigo displays. As I say, great watch, 39mm, but if that's not your style of watch, this from Timex might be, which is the one that I showed earlier. This is the 42mm Expedition Scout. I will put a link up to that review in the corner. Thanks to everybody that subscribed, watched and commented, and I'll see you on the next one. And the white one has more sort of classic blah 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 blah. Jeez.